Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. As always, our pleasure to come to you this afternoon. I'm joined with my co-host, Evan Wood-Tollison. As always, Troy Otradovic with you. Evan, we have a pretty special day today. We're joined with the sports editor from the Royal Purple, which is the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater newspaper, and he is the sports editor. He is a fifth-year senior. Kevin Cunningham has joined us today to preview the Warhawk game on Saturday, which is the D3 National Semifinal game. And I'm excited to have him on the show, Evan. Learn a little bit more about D3. There's a lot of good things that are going on at Whitewater. So I know that this will be a fun episode for us. For the listeners out there that don't know, University of Wisconsin-Whitewater is my alma mater. I graduated. I'm not going to say the year, so I aged myself. But I was actually
everybody in there?
What was that, bud? What do you say?
They let everybody in there, I guess?
Yeah, they let anybody in there. I was actually talking with Kevin before the show, and one of the real proud moments of me, though, I'm a former athlete as a soccer player, not a football player. I was one of Coach Fiscom's, I was his first recruiting class, his first year coaching. This gentleman was a huge mentor towards me. Taught me a lot about life, taught a lot about just how to be successful. And currently, the soccer complex, or the field, is actually now called Fiscom Field. So it's a proud moment for me to be part of that, be part of the first class that he ever put on the field. And I had a lot of good times and a lot of great memories at Whitewater. So, Kevin, I thank you for coming on the show. I know Evan is pretty psyched up about having you on the show to talk football because he covers Wisconsin Badger football. But the first thing, Kevin, that we want to talk about is, I know this week a couple of awards, some finalists, everybody's talking about the Heisman Trophy and those things in the BCS schools, Division I. But just fill us in on the two major finalists that we have at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater as far as national awards go for this team that is getting ready to play in the national semifinal.
First off, Evan and Troy, I'd like to thank you guys for having me on here. Definitely a privilege to be talking about Warhawk sports on the radio. Yeah, like you said, it's basically the Heisman Trophy for Division III football. It's the Gagliardi Trophy. Basically the same thing as the Heisman. And the senior middle linebacker, Cole Klotz, is one of four finalists. Like I said, he's a senior linebacker here at Whitewater. Led the team in tackles. The other three guys are junior quarterback Kevin Burke from Mount Union, who traditionally, for those that haven't followed D3 football over the years, Mount Union and University of Wisconsin-Whitewater have gone back and forth. Last season, the Warhawks actually didn't make the playoff, which is the first time in, I'm not sure exactly the year, but it was quite some time. Before last year, Warhawks won 3 straight national titles, and then before that, I want to say Mount Union won either 2 or 3 in a row. And over that 6 or 7 year span, we played each other every single year that both teams made the playoffs. So yeah, Kevin Burke, the quarterback from Mount Union, is up there. A senior quarterback from McCallum, from Middlebury. His name's McCallum Foote. He's up there. Like I said, Cole Klotz, our senior linebacker, and senior running back Octavius McCoy from Western Connecticut State. They're the 4 finalists. And with McCoy, not sure if you heard about this. I'm trying to look up the number exactly right now. But he ran for 455 yards in a game on October 26th.
Holy cow.
Wow. That's a all divisions record for a single game in running. So that definitely helped boost the season total up to 1,700. He's second in all-purpose yardage, over 200 yards a game, ran for 26 touchdowns, and he's the Division III leader in scoring, actually, in 17 points per game, which is kind of crazy for a running back. But, yeah, that's how he got up there. Klotz, like I said, he's our leading tackler. He's, our defense is ranked second nationally in terms of scoring defense, only giving up 8 points a game. And then we're 7th against the run. We're always very strong against the run. But our defense as a whole is definitely what has kept Whitewater, well, not kept, but has gotten us back to where we belong, which is in the semifinals of the D3 football championship.
Yeah, definitely in the end.
You guys shut down. You guys beat Linfield last week and shut them down after they got jumped out to a 17-0 lead, and I had heard that they were one of the top offensive teams in Division III, so that was a big accomplishment for your defense.
Yeah, absolutely. They were coming in 11-0. I can't say for sure that they had a weak schedule, because that wouldn't be fair, but they averaged over 50 points a game. They put up 80-something in one game. They put up 70-something in another. They were basically unstoppable all season. Their first-round game, they put up 42, and then their second-round game, they actually came from behind against Hampton-Sydney, but they ended up winning that 31-21. Then they came into Whitewater on Saturday, and they opened up the game. It was 7-0. We kicked it off. They drove right down the field, scored. They kicked it off to us. We fumbled that kickoff. They returned it, or didn't return it, but they recovered it. And a couple of plays later, they were about to go up 14-0, but it was 4th and goal. They took out their quarterback, who was a dual-threat quarterback, and put in a little wildcat set, and they bobbled the snap, lost it at our 1. So we got kind of lucky there. We could have been down 14-0 within the first, I don't know what that was, 2 minutes of the game. Yeah, it was only 7-0, but we didn't end up scoring offensively until the second quarter. But yeah, Linfield was up 17-0 to start the game, but it could have been even worse than that. Halftime we trailed 17-14. Offense started clicking. I think they were up 17-0 after 10 minutes left in the second quarter, and then after that, I think our defense gave up less than 100 total yards all game. And Linfield's offense, like you pointed to, was basically unstoppable all year. They averaged over 50 points a game, and to just shut them out for the last, 40 minutes or so of the game, that was definitely pretty special. Like I said, our defense has certainly carried us all year, but our quarterback has definitely taken a step up from last season as well.
Well, let's talk about that, Kevin, because the Whitewater offense is nothing to say, compared to that powerful Linfield offense. I mean, you look at the scoring. Whitewater's outscored opponents 485 to 107, and they have 2 receivers that have over 60 receptions and 1,000 yards. A quarterback that has only thrown 1 interception in 403 attempts, which I don't care what level of football you're playing, to only have 1 interception in 403 attempts, that is unbelievable.
Yep.
What do you think, is his success? Why has he been so successful, in that offense? What is Coach Leopold doing with him to allow him to have so much success?
I think it's just letting him be him. It's not much of a, Alex Smith type of thing in the NFL where it's just, manage the game. You do it well, that's great. We'll let you manage. So be it. It's not much of that. He does have some easy throws, not necessarily to start the game, but we do run a lot of wide receiver screens because, like you said, our wide receiver core is extremely strong. Just to go into Matt Barron, the junior quarterback, 36 touchdowns, 1 pick, like you said, 400 attempts. It's pretty remarkable. The lone pick, I didn't actually get to see that one. I want to say it was on the road, but I don't know what happened with that one. But I jokingly messed around with him, saying what happened after that, because I interviewed him after the game, and he was at a loss of words. He was mad, to say the least, that he threw the pick. But, he's trying to figure out how to put it. He's kind of a dual-threat quarterback. He's mobile. Leopold doesn't have any specific calls to keep him from making interceptions. He's just, part of it too, 400 attempts and 1 pick. Part of it is just getting lucky. But, balls not deflecting in defenders' hands, stuff like that. But, he rarely makes bad decisions. He'll occasionally throw the deep ball to Jake Kumaro, who has been his number 1 wideout all year. He's got over 1,100 yards, 17 touchdowns in 13 games. He's probably as good as it gets in D3 football. He's 6'5", 195 pounds. He came from a D1 college, actually, but I can't think of what college that is right now. But he's with us now. And another wide receiver, Joe Worth, who's a sophomore, came from Rutgers. I want to say this is his first, actually, this might be his second full year here. But, Barron's definitely a special player, and I could go on and on about the wide receivers that we have here. Kumro, like I said, he's 6'5". That's anytime there's single coverage on the outside, he'll throw it up to him. Typically, that's their goal-to-go play. There's been numerous times where it's third and long around, deep in the opponent's red zone, and he'll look for him every single time there's single coverage. Last week against Winfield, they had a set where it was like 3rd and 14 from around, the 20-yard line. And they set 4 receivers to the right and just singled out Kumro to the left just to ensure that there wouldn't be double coverage, and that was just an automatic touchdown. They try and isolate Kumro as much as possible. And like I said, anytime Barron sees Kumro with single coverage, he goes to him right away. And there's basically no corner in D3 football that can consistently cover that.
Well, Evan will tell you he likes defense. A 6'5" receiver, Evan. What do you think about that?
Don't really know how you would cover him. Really, just it's like trying to cover Calvin Johnson a little bit. You just have to hope that you can get just enough of him so the quarterback looks the other way.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's one thing. There's one thing you can't coach, and that's size. That's height. You can't coach that. You can't stretch the guy out to make him 6'5". So that is a great weapon. Talk a little bit about the running game, Kevin, because that the running game is also averaging over 4 yards a carry as a team, and running back over 1,000 yards. Talk a little bit about that running game.
Yeah, I mean, historically, just for those that don't know, D3 football, they count rushing yards just as a whole. Typically, this obviously only means for the quarterback, but when quarterbacks get sacked, they count those yards negative against them. So team numbers overall might look a little skewed just because sacks go against the rushing total. But yeah, like you said, there is an over 1,000-yard rusher here, which we weren't sure we were going to have. Because there has been, I want to say, our top 3 running backs have gone down over the course of the year. Let's see here. Dennis Moore, I believe, it was either Dennis Moore or Ryan Givens were the 1 and 2 to open up the season. And Moore has been done for the year. He only played in 5 games. Givens has played in 12, but it's been extremely sporadic. He's only got 59 carries on the season. But Moore and Givens were supposed to basically carry the load. Historically for Whitewater, we've had one running back that has just carried the load behind an extremely good offensive line. And the motto here is pound the rock. Not necessarily pound the rock as in run, but for our running game, pounding the rock basically has taken the meaning of just making it easy on the quarterback and running the ball, 30-plus times a game with the same running back. There's been Justin Beaver, Lavelle Coppage, and now with so many injuries that we've had, Booker Ross has gone down a few times. He, I believe, is our 4th running back to start the year. Jordan Ratliff is the guy that has 1,000 yards now. He was the 3rd string running back. 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, is averaging 5.9 yards a carry. Booker Ross is 5.4. Givens, when he plays, 5.2. Nick Patterson is another one. I want to say Patterson came as the 3rd. Ratliff was the 4th. Ross was the 5th. So I believe we're down to realistically our 4th and 5th string running backs. Yeah, exactly. That's been Coach Leipold's motto for running the ball. He would like to have 1 or 2 running backs consistently stay healthy and guys he can depend on like he has in years past, but it just hasn't been the case this year. But Ratliff and Ross have definitely given the team, a boost from all you can ask for a fourth and fifth string running back.
Well,
The offensive line also is extremely young. I mean, coming into the season, that was probably the biggest question mark for this team. The defense, there were basically no holes in there. Quarterback play was going to be interesting because Barrett took over halfway last year through the year over starting quarterback Lee Brecky. Brecky was a senior. He got the nod over Barrett. Barrett was a sophomore last year. He kind of struggled, hence why we kind of didn't make the playoffs last year. Not to put everything on Brecky, obviously, but quarterback play wasn't elite like, it has been in years past with Matt Blanchard, who's currently on the Carolina Panthers. He got signed by the Bears a couple years ago. He's an alumni from here. Barrett stepped in last year. He did a solid job, and this year, obviously, he's taken a huge step forward. The offensive line coming in was a huge question mark, and just because they were so young, but they've really grown over the course of the year, and not to call it a strong point of the team because the team is so strong all around, but they definitely haven't been a letdown, so to say.
That is, when you talk about the injuries, and Evan said it, the next man up, to be able to go in that deep and have that kind of running is amazing. It looks like, the quarterback situation, it looks like it was a great move at this point. You've got, really strong quarterback play. Let's talk about Coach a little bit. I mean, he is up for the Coach of the Year award. The guy has really handled the tradition of Whitewater football really well. Being the sports editor and being around Coach, if you can describe him and his mentality when you're talking to him, give the listeners, because none of our, maybe some of our listeners that know you will listen into our show, but for those listeners that are not even related to Whitewater football, sum up Coach in a couple words. His mentality, his preparation. What is it like being around a very successful Division III coach like himself?
Yeah, there's numerous ways to describe him. I don't even know where to start. He's definitely a character, which makes it fun covering the team. And when I say he's a character, I mean it in a good way. He knows what he has with his team. I think last year, even he knew that, winning 3 national titles in a row, being to, I don't know what it was, 5 or 6 straight Stag Bowls, that's basically the Super Bowl, that's the D3 championship and what it's called. To have expectations of going to the Stag Bowl every single year in, year out, you get accustomed to it, you get used to it. Your players, think that it's just going to happen year in, year out. And, to do that 6 or 7 straight years, obviously, shows how good of a coach he is, whether he's pulling the best D3 recruits you possibly can. It still takes a hell of a coach to really just get the most out of your guys year in, year out. Leipold as a person, I think, after last year, and, even though the team lost quite a bit, not too much defensively, but coming into this year, I remember, after the first game and even before the first game, he talked about how young this team was. I think there are 90-something guys on the team, and over half of those are freshmen. He's, like I said, our offensive line was a huge question mark coming into this year, and another huge part of this team was, just the number of coaching changes over the last few years. When you have, the amount of success that Whitewater has over the last few years, coaches tend to move, just like D1 football. That's why it's so hard for, USCs to stay on top of the world, Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio State. Those assistants just move on to head coaching jobs elsewhere because of the success they have. But, Leipold has done a great job, hiring the assistants he has. Just his mentality entering the year, like I said before, I want to say he's pretty realistic. I mean, he said numerous times throughout the season that, he's not sure if, basically, that this team has overachieved in his mind. Coming into the year, he wasn't sure, how well Barrett would play under center. He wasn't sure how the offensive line would hold up. He wasn't sure if the defense would be as elite as it has been. He just knows that coming into this year, he wasn't really sure how it was going to really pan out. And, to his expectations, the team has exceeded them by far. But I think now, looking at the team he has over the last few weeks, post-game press conferences, I think he's realized how good a team he has, and, he feels strongly about him. But he's a very down-to-earth guy, makes jokes when he can. He's just a fun guy to be around and to cover his team. It's really a pleasure.
Well, and I'll tell you,
to hear him. I've heard nothing but good things about him. Now, we got about 10 minutes left. You guys play, was it Mary Hardin-Baylor on Saturday? What can you tell us about this team Whitewater's playing on Saturday?
Mary Hardin-Baylor's, once the bracket was out and set, I figured we would play Linfield in the, I guess you could call it the Elite Eight, the quarterfinals. And now we're down to
play Linfield, it seems like, in the Elite Eight or semifinals.
Yeah, we've played them, I want to say 3 years in the playoffs, or 3 times over the last 5 years. Like you said, we've kind of grown accustomed to seeing them in the playoffs. But yeah, Mary Hardin-Baylor, I kind of knew that they would be the team we would face here. They had the home road in their little section of 8. There were 32 teams to start the D3 football playoffs. Mary Hardin-Baylor and us are on the same side. Mount Union, North Central are the other 2 teams on the other side. Just looking at the bracket, it was us on top, Mary Hardin-Baylor on the bottom. They're a team from Texas. They're 13-0. Their defense has been extremely strong all year. The first round of the playoffs, they won 35-7. Second round, 59-8. And then this last round, 45-23. Their offense is, really good as well. They had, I'm not sure why, but they took out their quarterback at some point during the week last week. Even though they were up fairly comfortably throughout the game, they took him out. I'm not exactly sure why, if that was injury related or they wanted to see what their backup could do. I'm not sure exactly. But Mary Hardin-Baylor, I think they're just a very strong football team on all facets of the game. And I think, us having to travel to Texas by plane, which is something D3 teams usually have to take the bus everywhere. Last season we played, I'm blanking on the name right now. It's a team from New York. They beat us 7-6, the first game of the season. So that was rough. But we, got to go out to New York. Not me personally, but the team, drove a bus out to New York, went to visit. So to be on a plane, it just kind of, I guess, gets in the players' heads that, holy cow, this is for real. D3 sports, you never take planes anywhere. You go take buses no matter where you go across the country. But, yeah, going to Texas to play a very strong team in Mary Hardin-Baylor should be a very, very good matchup.
I'm looking forward to it.
You're expecting a defensive slugfest?
Yeah, that really wouldn't surprise me. I think our defense, if we give up 30 points to anybody, I'd be surprised. But, our offense this season has kind of adopted the hurry-up role, and they've kind of just adopted that and played it, as fast as possible when they can. So it's not as though the game slowed down and our defense benefits from that. The defense is just that strong on, all 3 levels, the defensive line, linebackers, secondary, all very strong. Like I said, Cole Potts earlier, up for the Gagliardi Trophy, basically the Heisman. The 3 linebackers are seniors. Defensive line hasn't gotten too many sacks if you look at total numbers, but, they've gotten pressure, which was the huge key for Linfield. Last week we were down 17-0, and we really couldn't stop them offensively. And then our defensive coordinator just dialed up some blitzes. Front 4 started getting pressure, and that's when things just went loose. But yeah, I definitely think it could turn into a defensive battle. I'd be surprised if we put up a ton of points because their defense is very strong as well. So yeah, like you said, I could definitely see the game falling into the 20s for sure.
And some of those games aren't too bad, though. Some of those are the best games to watch when you have two really good defenses going at it. So it definitely is going to be all dialed up on Saturday. It should be a really good game. Evan, do you have anything else for Kevin? We're falling in right now under the 5-minute mark, but any last comments, Evan, before we end the show today?
Now, if you guys do end up beating Mary Hardin-Baylor on Saturday, do you have a preference for the Sag Bowl, bring on Mount Union as usual, or would you rather see a new face if you guys went on Saturday?
Right, I like that question. I think playing Mount Union would just be the icing on the cake. But at the same time, North Central, a team from Illinois, who I personally think is going to beat Mount Union. This is I forgot what the number is, but it's like 12 or 14 straight years Mount Union's been to the semifinals of the D3 football playoffs. That just shows how, rich the history is for UW-Whitewater and Mount Union. Those two teams have been at the top for the past decade. So yeah, meeting Mount Union would be special again. But, if we did play North Central, who I think honestly is the better team out of those two, that would be cool too. Because they're in Illinois, they're, basically right under Wisconsin. It would be a really interesting matchup. Before the brackets came out, we figured it would be a 1 seed, and North Central would be a 2, which is what it ended up being. And even though the NCAA doesn't have set seeding, North Central was the 2 in their region, and just because they're so close to us, we figured that if we were the 1 and North Central got a 2, it would be in our little region, not Linfield, who's out in Oregon. So it kind of surprised us when the brackets came out that Linfield wasn't our bracket, in our little section of 8, I should say, and North Central wasn't. But North Central beat UW-Platteville, who's another WEAC team. Our conference is the WEAC. Platteville had an extremely good offense all year, and going into that game, North Central beat them 52-24. North Central's basically blown out teams all season. Their offense is really strong. And the one thing I can say about Mount Union is they put up a lot of points this year, but the defense has also given up a lot of points. They've given up 20-plus in, I want to say, the majority of their games. And throughout the playoffs, they've given up 20-plus as well. Their last game, actually, that they played at home against Wesley, they were 9-2 heading into that game. Mount Union won that one 62-59. Wow. So, yeah, to say that, Mount Union's battle there. Yeah, exactly. Mount Union's defense historically has been, top-notch like ours, but this year it doesn't seem to be the case. And when you bring in North Central to play them, I would be very surprised if North Central didn't put up 40-plus. It's just a matter of, whether they can stop Mount Union's offense. So, as to who I would rather see us play, honestly, either one would be kind of special. Being Mount Union is always fun. But if we did play North Central, I think it really would be a pretty interesting
90 seconds.
Bragging rights over Illinois.
Exactly.
Gotta have the bragging rights over Illinois. Doesn't matter what level we're playing sports at. We have to beat the Illinois teams when we play them. That is just a given. But again, Kevin, I do appreciate you coming on the show today. And like we had talked about, with Whitewater, we're going to be optimistic. They're going to win on Saturday, and then we'll have you back on the show next Wednesday to preview the Stag Bowl.
Seconds.
I look forward to that. With that said, for all of our listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed our show today. Learn a little bit more about D3 football, a little bit more about Warhawk football. Best of luck to the Hawks on Saturday. With that said, I want to give thanks again to our listeners. Thanks to your daily Cowboys football fix with Cass. We do appreciate contributing to that. And so, with that said, everyone, we'll see you at the next red light. We'll get at you tomorrow.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.